So the Quest 2 has been around for a while, and we all know from the last time I did a durability test that this thing is an absolute tank. I feel like it could survive a 20-story drop. But in the past year, the very first real competitor to the Quest 2 has released, the Pico 4. And well, it's better than the Quest 2 in almost every single way, and costs about the same. But cost and specs aside, is it as durable? Will it survive the ultimate of stress tests? I figured if the Pico 4 and Quest 2 are going head to head in every single way, might as well put them on the same playing field physically. So for this test, I bought a fresh tamper-free Pico 4, and right now these things are actually cheaper than the Quest 2 in most places, and brings up a very valid question. Did Pico cheap out on materials and build quality to achieve this price? Will it last for years, or is it junk that'll fail with a single drop? So I'm gonna put the Pico through a series of trials designed to simulate the most extreme and common scenarios that a VR headset can be put through. Just think of this as education, showing you what not to do with your headset by pushing the limits. And you gotta admit that no matter how careful you are with your stuff, sometimes happens. And I'm just showing you exactly what happens when happens. So, sandpaper, granite, and the drying machine. Will it survive? Scenario 1. The drop test. Okay, so VR headsets aren't quite the most common thing to be dropped, but it does happen. And if you throw someone in a VR headset for the first time, the drop just might be a fall. So whether it's grandma taking a tumble, a crazy night in VR chat, or just your butterfingers, let's see if the Pico 4 survives a drop from around head height. And again, and again, and again, and even higher. And we're off to a great start. The headset functions perfectly fine. There's really no scratches or dents even while throwing the headset. It's all good. But throwing or dropping a headset isn't really all that likely. What is more likely is accidentally throwing or dropping the controllers. In fact, this is probably the most common VR-related mishap. It happens way more than you'd think. So, the controllers. And with the exception of the batteries flying out on some drops, everything works perfectly fine still. So let's move on to scenario 2, the Beat Saber Boxer, which kinda doesn't work here because Beat Saber isn't on the Pico store, but it's still on Steam, at least for now. So I guess it still works. So imagine you're going crazy playing Ghost on Expert Plus, or any game I guess, and you accidentally hit a wall or counter or just some object. This is to test just how hard you can smack the controllers. And this is also one of the most common points of failure for VR devices. So, gloves on. And okay, in the Quest video, I went really hard on the controllers, so obviously I wanted an equal test. And well, we have our first failure. The Pico controller's tracking ring is a totally different design than the Quest 2's, and it seems that this wavy tracking section just isn't quite as strong as the touch controller's circle. The right controller is still fully functional after a few really hard hits, but the plastic has popped out of position. The left controller, on the other hand, had a critical failure. Now, before we talk about what happened, I want to say that hitting the Pico controller in exactly this location in this way with this amount of force is extremely unlikely, and I can't imagine actually doing this while playing a game. This is just a ridiculous example to test the most extreme and unfortunate of happenings, but also to be real, people have broken VR controllers in way weirder ways, and I almost guarantee that if the Pico 4 was more popular, you'd probably see more of these types of failures on Reddit or Twitter. So the failure. There is a bit of a weak spot on the top of the controller. The plastic snapped, also severing a wire and ribbon cable, but the controller was still functional, just with no 6DoF tracking. And of course, I believe in trying to fix everything, and repairability is always a huge bonus, but unfortunately, due to the ribbon cable breakage, with an average set of skills, which is about what I have, this would definitely have to be sent back to Pico. There are options out there to purchase replacement controllers, but there's no official options currently, which kind of sucks. Looks like you just have to go through support. Scenario 3, scratched lenses. This is probably one of the most terrifying things that could ever happen to a VR headset. One bad scratch in the wrong spot and your headset is useless, and it happens all the time. Whether due to a crusty shirt or dirty microfiber cloth, or carelessly throwing your headset into a backpack with your keys and some tools and a couple knives. Okay, so surface level scratches. I'll just dangle some keys on the lenses, and the Pico actually does incredibly well. There are a few dents and micro abrasions, but through the lens, they're hardly noticeable. And it seems that the coating Pico put on the lenses will resist most, if not all, light scratches. But now it's time for the sandpaper. So, like I said, one bad scuff and your headset is unusable. In fact, I just scratched a lens on a 360 camera, and well, because I was able to buff out the scratch, I didn't have to waste weeks and money sending it back to the manufacturer. So this test is all about repairability and whether I can easily buff out more extreme scratches using Polywatch or some other polishing material. So 80 grit sandpaper on the left lens and 800 grit on the right. Let's go. So the 80 grit scratches are far too deep to recover from using typical Polywatch or really anything. And after this, I don't think I'll ever test VR lenses with 80 grit again. It's insta-death, it's just way too abrasive. But I did learn a great lesson regarding pancake lenses. Compared to the Quest 2's Fresnel lenses, it seems that the Pico's lenses just have a completely different type of coating. And if you try to polish or buff out a scratch that is too deep, you'll likely strip away some or most of this coating, and you will ruin the entire lens. Now, using Polywatch or something like that for very, very light scratches probably won't be a problem, but if you have anything deeper than a fine scratch, well, I'm sorry. To be fair, this is about the same performance as the Quest 2's lenses, we just have a little more material to play with on that headset, but really, any scratches coarser than fine will just be too deep for repair. But I guess now we know these lenses' limits, so just try to be very careful if you ever buff anything out. Okay, so as you know, no VR durability test would ever be complete without Scenario 4. So the dryer test is a highly precise trial that is perfectly calibrated to test the day in, day out usage of a VR headset. Some studies say that one 5-minute cycle is the equivalent of multiple years of usage. Okay, no, but seriously, the dryer test is just a ridiculously tough physical challenge to see how it survives unpredictable tumbles. It's meant to replicate that long-term usage where, you just got scuffs, you got bumps, you dropped it a few times, you maybe hit it with something, I don't know. And well, to no surprise after the drop test, the Pico 4 has survived. Tracking works perfectly fine, the pass-through cameras turn on, everything's good here, which is a pretty good accolade. The Pico 4 has officially passed the dryer test. And now we can get into our final test, headstrap durability. So the Quest 2 official headstrap accessories have long had a terrible reputation for cracking and failing. Even my own Elite strap that I bought ended up failing. But at least swapping headstraps on the Quest 2 is super easy and there are so many options. The Pico 4, however, has a completely non-removable headstrap. And on top of that, while it's awesome that the Pico 4's battery is in the back, that also means that if your headstrap breaks, the entire headset is broken. No audio, no battery, no power, insta-gib. So I'm not gonna go easy on this thing. I twisted it, I pulled it, flopped it, mangled it, and somehow it just returned right back to its original position every single time, still functioning. Now that's a very solid win for Pico. If you're gonna make a headstrap non-removable, at least make it incredibly durable. So after dropping, throwing, crashing, scratching, twisting, and drying, how'd the Pico perform relatively? Well, like I said earlier, this is the only competitor to the Quest 2, and that headset is without a doubt the most durable VR device ever made. It's hard to go up against. It's a literal brick. And I can say that after all these tests, that if the Quest 2 is a 10 out of 10 for durability, the Pico 4 is about a 9.973 out of 10, passing every test with flying colors except for the most extreme of controller collisions. And due to the lenses being a different style, I just wouldn't mess with the coatings too much. Both headsets are barely repairable, but given normal use, that shouldn't be too much of a problem. And other than that, the Pico 4 is certified ThrillSeeker durability test approved. And at the end of the day, really just don't throw your headset, take good care of it, cover your lenses, and make sure you're watching your play space so you're not smacking into things. If you do all of those things, the Pico 4 will last a long time. It's durable. And all Also, to everyone in the comments that are about to say that starving children could have eaten this headset, how could I have destroyed it? Look, right now, looking at the Pico 4 sales numbers, Pico needs the sales. And you know, it's actually a shame how poorly the Pico 4 is sold. I mean, I have a few ideas why it's sold poorly, but really, I'm kind of falling in love with the Pico 4. Despite a few issues, it's without a doubt the absolute best. Look, the full review's on its way. Don't worry, it'll be a good one. Whether you want a Pico 4 or not, it'll be one to watch. But I wanted to say that I am bringing back community meetups for the ThrillSeeker community. It's been over a year since the last one, but it's about time. The meetups are always a massive blast. It's just hundreds of people come together and we all talk about VR stuff. It's great. So to get notified on the first comeback event, join in my Discord server and you'll be front of the line to join up in those meetups. All right, so I want to say thank you to all of my Patreon supporters, especially my Omegas. They are the ones that really made this video possible and essentially bought this test subject. So you should be thanking them, not me. Anyways, as always, don't forget to like this video if you loved it, subscribe if you want more of this, and hit that freaking bell if you just can't live without it. Much love, Thrill out.